with a breach at the Dulce facility by a scientific contingent who had discovered that Greys who are there at the facility...
Alien Greys.
Well, not alien Greys. This is one of the big misconceptions. These are not aliens. These are Greys that were created by some other group here on Earth.
Okay.
Yeah. So these Greys essentially have been there for over 25,000 years. These Greys were conducting some type of, human abductions, and the scientific contingent had discovered that. They breached the level of this facility that they were not supposed to, and it set off an engagement between the Greys and the military there in the facility. A lot of people ended up dying. 22 people were unaccounted for.
Jeez.
And yeah, and there's a lot of mythology around this whole event. There's a lot of different versions of this story coming from a lot of different people. Now, this is what I find interesting. Is that the Colonel's story cross-correlates with various bits and pieces of data from other people that have emerged over the years with respect to Dulce.
Okay, now, let's go back to these Greys. You say they're not extraterrestrial, that they were created on this planet, probably genetically, right? I mean, were they living life forms, or were they like robots?
They've been described as cybernetic organisms, right?
Or maybe a combination.
Or a combination. I think more of a combination. What happened was...
And who created them, Anthony?
That's the interesting thing here. They are descendants of these progenitors. According to the Grey archaeological tablets, they were placed there by a progenitor race. This progenitor race today represents the modern-day Illuminati bloodline. They created the Greys, yet over time they had to interbreed with humans to continue living on this planet.
Would they be like the ETs that Zecharia Sitchin has always talked about prior to his passing?
In fact, the progenitors are descendants of the Anunnaki. Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so the Greys, so they created the Greys to serve them and to control the human slave populations, the earliest vestiges of humanity. Over time, as the progenitors began to interbreed with humans, the need for the Greys diminished. In fact, they became a threat to the progenitors, so they infected them with a virus, they relocated them, and they hoped that they would die off, but they didn't. And in 1938, the U.S. government had encountered them accidentally. In fact, there's a recorded event where the cavalry actually encountered them first, much earlier. But
and the Greys were violent?
The Greys were violent because they did not want to be discovered. They did not want to be interacted with. The 1938 Murak expedition, this is a group of soldiers with various types of specializations out of Murak Army Airfield. That's what it was called at the time. Today it's Edwards Air Force Base. When they happened upon this cavern on the mesa, on the Archuleta Mesa, they had found that there were signs of an engagement that had happened between Apache warriors and the Greys. There was actually dead bodies everywhere when they first initially entered the facility. There was technology that they had encountered, and there was rooms filled with these Grey archaeological tablets. These were metal sheets that had precision-like, writing on them. These were tablets which held this advanced style of what closely resembled a skating conveyor form.
Okay.
But yeah, they were violent at first. They were.
Now, didn't the Colonel also talk about craft down there in this underground base?
Absolutely. The Greys have their own craft that they utilize for transport in and around the Four Corners area. So there are actually hangars that they have there that they themselves built. There's hangars that they themselves built, but which over time were retrofitted once the human contingent started working with the Greys there at Dulce.
So the technology must be extraordinary.
It's beyond anything we can imagine. It's beyond anything we can imagine. This is 25,000 years of a scientific contingent living in a subterranean habitat, doing nothing but continually enhancing their own genetic code and advancing their levels of technology.
Are they living there now, Anthony? Are they're alive and they're there now?
They are there right now. Matter of fact, I'm also aware that there is a contingent of these same grays in Alice Springs in an underground facility called Pine Gap in Australia. Here, the grays that are there in Dulce espouse that the progenitors are returning at the end of 2012.
Je vois aussi la rencontre. Je ne sais pas comment vous dire ça, mais je vois aussi on va probablement rencontrer d'autres personnes. Oui, de rencontres extraterrestres. Voilà, le mot est lancé. Et en même temps, si vous êtes là, c'est pour qu'on puisse en parler. 2012, pour moi, c'est l'année de la rencontre. Je ne sais pas s'il faut vraiment parler de formidable. Le problème, c'est que je pense qu'ils seront tellement en avance sur nous. Imaginez, ils viennent du fin fond de la galaxie. Pour l'instant, nous, on était sur la Lune. Mais heureux, mais c'est un conflit. Écoutez ce que je dis. On va avoir la visite de gens qui seront bien plus puissants que nous. Il y a des perdants et des gagnants dans un conflit. Nous serons les perdants. Je peux vous assurer que si je ne vois rien après 2012, c'est pour une raison bien claire, c'est que l'humanité aura disparu. Bon, mais on va arrêter.
Now, the other project that I'm working on, this whole Project Leonid information, there's a definitive 2012 connection because there are reports that some type of an event is going to occur at the end of 2012, and the data that is emerging is saying that it is the execution phase of a mass landing event. That's all I know at the moment, or at least that I can share on the air, because I'm still conducting an investigation.
And it's the same with disclosure. We're in a very unstable period of our history. It's like everything's bouncing around. That is exactly, in my view, the type of environment in which some monumental mistake will occur.
Had a drive to keep this covered up or something. These can't all be coincidences, and since they're doing that with everything else, it has to be the case that there's some movement to keep this stifled. I mean, why isn't, and here's another piece to add to this, why isn't this in our education system? We learn all this junk geometry, pea-brain stuff when you take geometry in high school, and they don't teach you about any of this, the golden ratio everywhere in nature. I went through elementary school, high school, college, undergrad degree in college, master's degree, and halfway through PhD, and never was any of this mentioned. And we know who controls the universities, the big money behind it, all the way up to the Illuminati Nephilim controllers. So this can't be. This is planned, okay? And you just wonder, it's got to, I mean, I'm almost concluding here in my mind this Davidson college sites showing up #1 in Google all the time on the first page, and Wikipedia having these strange measurements which don't correlate with all kinds of these examples from academic sites I'm finding. I'm putting them all, pictures of the screenshots in the newsletter. It's got to be a conspiracy. I mean, we could keep going compiling the evidence; it would just all lead to it. So, and if we could keep compiling evidence of it being a conspiracy, I mean, everything points towards it. I'm just throwing ideas off the top of my head. These strange sites show up at the top. Wikipedia's wrong. It's covered up completely in the best-selling books about the golden ratio, which come from wealthy university professors. It's the universities and the government-controlled education system absolutely covers it up. You see how, I mean, everything's falling in the same direction. You know, so when everything, all these conclusions point to the same direction, that it's covered up and hidden.
You can get a certain amount of information out through the large media, but it's very superficial and very brief. That's what we found. The in-depth sort of disclosure of what's really going on, who's behind it, what the agenda is, that is almost always stopped. Or if they try to do it, it gets turned into something ridiculous.
What a lot of people that have the answers felt it was safe to come out of the water, so they're putting out their information on the internet, and, you know, disguised or whatever. But so these other agents, per se, they're scanning all the time to counteract what's being said by other people from Intel that think it was safe to, okay, we can put this out, or they feel like it's the right thing to do now. You know, enough is enough, mankind has a right to know type thing.
Western science between 1993 and the year 2000, under laboratory conditions, established the fact, and it is now a fact, that we are all connected through a field of energy. We're bathed in the field of energy. That is the mirror. Literally, it provides the mirror of the world around us for what we have become from within. If we want to change this world, we must become, and this is the key, the ancient wisdom, we must become the very things that we choose to experience in life.